I'm so used to having plugs that aren't really conducive to this stuff, and these plugs are actually really nice. So I can just put it on the plug instead of putting it on the ends.
So we got video evidence. He's made 2 compliments to Ford here in the past 20 minutes.
I know, it's frightening.
Yes.
I'm frightened. Hello everyone, it's Carl from Krazy Karl Project. And today I'm working on the 2000 Ford F150. I am going to change out the front light assemblies. These are, other than being really cloudy, they're not actually in bad shape, but it was just as cheap to buy a full set as it was to buy the tail lights I had to replace anyways. So I figured why not just replace them all and have them nice looking. And I'm also going to change out the battery. Previous owner put the cheapest battery they could get in it.
The thing looks like it belongs in a go-kart.
Yeah, it might, but it's not near what the battery's supposed to be. I've gotten a properly sized battery so I can put all the casing back on to hold it in place and have the posts in the right order, because right now it's in reverse. I'm going to disconnect that first, which is good to do when you're working on electronics, just so you don't cause an arc.
A Ford F150 in its natural state with the hood up.
Positive off first. Kill the juice.
Yep.
And the negative. When they changed the battery, they also changed the cables. That's a new cable. That is not. That end's been replaced though.
Looks like somebody's gnawed on it.
They probably had a bad battery for a long time, so they just jumped it.
More than likely. I think
things that happen with farm trucks.
Yes, farm trucks get abused.
Never catch.
The joys of plastic screws.
Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. Okay, that may not have to come out. I just got to figure out how you disconnect them.
So if you can't see, he's playing with this thing right here. I don't know what it is, but it does something.
It holds the lights in, apparently. Looks like they broke off of the light adjustment tabs on these. Okay, I need a long screwdriver. This has just gotten a whole lot easier, though.
It is quite a change of pace for one of the projects to go easier rather than harder.
I don't know about these, though. I don't know about those.
I'll stop you when you try to take off the tire.
Okay, that's real reassuring. These definitely need to be replaced. They're missing parts.
Only a couple. I promise this is not a hair club for men advertisement. I'm going to tease you about that bald spot till you get a cap, or you start spray painting your head like the old guy in the old infomercials from the 90s.
Oh, come on. Just one coat will last all day.
You can even brush it. Just brush lightly.
Okay, that was frightening on how easy that was.
I guess they expected you to want to replace this. I'm going with that.
This is how you change the light bulb. That's how it amounts to. This is how you change the light bulb. You take the whole assembly out, which is a little odd, but actually I'll give Ford kudos on that. That makes this brilliant. Okay. Just clear silicone is the sealant on those Sylvia bowls. Alrighty. Remind me again, why am I replacing the turn signals?
Because it came as a kit.
That's right.
And part of me thinks you're, at this point, just a little bit masochistic.
Oh, wow. Snap, snap, lock screw. So that screw's all you do to remove it. Too simple, so watch it be an odd size. First try.
Huh.
This is first in the history of me ever working on a Ford, something simple. Normally, we can't figure out how to get it off. Not on this truck, but when I've helped buddies work on Fords. You spend forever trying to figure out how to get it off or get to it. Then you get it off, then you can't find a part that matches.
So are you going to run to the hardware store for this car as well?
I don't know.
You've run to the hardware store for every car you've worked on so far that I've recorded.
Well, I have run to the hardware store on this one. Remember, I bought cable clamps to try to make the parking cable work, repair it, so I could get new ones in, which they're on their way. Eventually. they were actually in stock again. So I ordered them last night, and they're actually going to be here quicker than if I ordered them when I bought the truck a month ago, because they were out of stock and they were waiting for resupply.
Thanks, Amazon.
So yeah, they're going to be supposed to be here this week, as opposed to the first week of November like they were supposed to have been before. Now this one, those are easy enough, but I got to figure out which way you twist this to do this, because I've got to exchange those. That bulb looks good. I'll do all this and these bulbs will pop. Well, I bought light bulbs for the headlight assemblies because they weren't supposed to have light bulbs in them, and they did. That made me hopeful the turn light signals would have the same, and they don't. Let's get the dirt dauber nest out of there.
Now, I believe it was a farm truck. You should have let me record that, guy.
It wasn't a dirt dauber nest. It was some sort of egg sac that's been long empty. So.
Yes, he's putting gloves on because, as you may know or you may not know, you touch these bulbs with your fingertips, the bulbs blow. Because something about the oils from your hands, or I don't know, space alien rays or something. I don't know. I just know it blows. When I was 18, I used to keep a receipt in my...
can make the bulbs pop.
That.
And the joys of sharing workspace. I don't have any gloves in the garage. Luckily, I have some in my car.
When I was 18, I used to keep a receipt in my car so I could just replace it on the fly, because I didn't know it was the oils in my hands burning out the bulbs. I just knew they blew every 7 to 14 days.
Hey, the nice part about it is the ones in my truck actually fit me. The ones I had in the garage were about 2 sizes too small, so I'd break one or two getting them on. I haven't even managed to get tires on this thing yet. And with changing these lights, and if the brake cables come and parts for the parking brake, and that's fixed, I will, and putting a pair of old tires I had for another vehicle on the back, replacing the bald ones. I've already made this $2,000 truck a $2,500 truck.
True.
If not more.
True.
I've already had people interested in buying it, of all crazy things. I didn't really plan on that.
Yeah, well, I make jokes, but these old F-150s, they're desirable. People like them. I think this is the exact reason why. It was stupid easy to replace everything.
Well, I got the one that you wanted for them, at least that I know of. It's got the V6 post gasket issue solved, and oil issue solved, and it's a manual transmission on a quest for dielectric grease. I've spent too many years working on Jeeps where moisture gets into everything, so this keeps it from corroding. Helps protect the connections and keep it from corroding by putting a coat on it.
So why do they call it dielectric?
I think it's just the nature of the chemical makeup. But it will conduct, it doesn't interfere with the conduction of electricity, but it does help make a barrier for moisture. And of course I'm doing this on a windy day. There's a little track thing this has to go into. There's little tracks you've got to line it up with.
Yeah, if you don't get it on the track,
There
it's
we go.
not going to cut you slack.
Yeah. And now, I get to change the light bulbs in the new light assemblies, because I am a masochist. But I bought some good headlights, because I didn't think these were coming with them. I wasn't taking them out of the old ones. And yeah, these are actually in pretty good shape, so I'm going to protect them. I'll protect the other ones in the box too, but more for the fact I have the extra light bulbs. I have 3 sets of light bulbs for this vehicle.
Hoarder.
Well, it's one of those funny things, when you have extra light bulbs, those aren't the ones that burn out.
Yeah, that's the way it usually works with me. I got that part. That's not the part I needed though.
And these are just the Ultra Silver Star Sylvia ones. So I've had good luck with them in the past. They give out good light and they don't burn out super fast.
What about LEDs? Can I put LEDs on this thing?
You can put LEDs in, but you've got to be careful with them. You've got to make sure you get one that matches up well with the vehicle, so that depending on how the reflective surface in these light fixtures are, you may need different setups in the LED layout, because different kinds will send light out differently to reflect off of the surfaces. A lot of times the side-by-side ones, since these light bulbs tend to be lined up so the elements are going to be flat and flat, so that's where it projects the most light. Yes. Most of these are set up to reflect that way. So you want the flat LEDs with a light on each side. Now when you have projector or some of the refraction ones where they have a mirror in front of the light bulb bouncing it back, those you're actually good with the 3 or 4 sided ones, because it reflects all the light that's put out back and then it's projected out.
What if they don't breathe? The LED doesn't breathe or something like that? If they don't
breathe, you run into problems. You can get ones that aren't ventilated, but when you get the ones that aren't ventilated, I've had mixed luck with that. What's funny is that gasket actually looks nicer than the gasket on these.
It's just a different color.
And this is an advantage of having one. I don't remember which way that was up. I got talking. Okay, flat in towards little point. It's upside down. It just pushes in.
So remember, flat end towards little point, whatever that means.
It's just where it's sloped.
Okay. I just consider, well, I won't say what we used to say back in my old job, but I will say pointy side up.
Yeah. I'm going to compare the adjustments on the other one to this one.
Yeah. Now there is a way that you can manually adjust these things. Of course, the way I usually adjust them is I get on my phone, I call my mechanic, and I drive it over there to him and spend $50. But you can do it differently. You don't have to be like me and waste money.
Yeah, well, all I'm doing to start with is just checking lengths of distance on what was on the original. I'm just going to compare them.
Yeah, there is videos, all kinds of videos out there on how to do this with duct tape and flat parking lots. Yeah. As you can see, we don't exactly have a flat parking lot.
Yeah, I've got to eyeball it and rough it in. Looks like they're supposed to be pre-adjusted, and other than a little half turn to get where that one was, that's all it needed there.
So this could be known, this could be called a rough estimate, I'm guessing?
Yeah, this is just roughing it in. You get them close to what they were before, and at least you know it was back to what the old headlights were, but that doesn't necessarily mean these will adjust the same. These may lay out completely differently from the old ones. A little bit of dielectric grease. This time I'm just going to put it on the plug. I'm so used to having plugs that aren't really conducive to this stuff, and these plugs are actually really nice. So I can just put it on the plug instead of putting it on the ends.
So we got video evidence. He's made 2 compliments to Ford here in the past 20 minutes.
I know, it's frightening.
Yes.
I'm frightened.
Could it be that the truck he's made the most fun of will end up being his favorite truck of all time?
Well, of the Ford trucks, I'll give this one, in its defense, it's the one I made the least fun of. Because at the time, I think it was about the best looking truck being made. But I wasn't really impressed with any of them at the time. Now here's one aggravation. Those things move around, and I'm having to try to get them lined up with holes, and they keep moving.
Of course, you can also brighten these up with stuff off the shelf and whatnot. You can have limited success with that. Sometimes it works pretty well.
I've never had much luck with it myself.
I've had them last about a year.
I've never had to do very much for brightening them up. I've actually had to make it worse more often than I've had to make it any brighter. All I'm trying to do is get these adjustment screws to line up with the holes, and they're not wanting to. And what's funny, this thing has wiring for the fog lights already. There's extra plugs on either side for lights that go to the lighting harness, and they're just shoved up in there. So the only thing I can figure is those are for fog lights. And while this doesn't have fog lights, it's wired for fog lights. So maybe it had fog lights? Or Ford just decided that if you didn't get fog lights, you didn't get the bottom clip for it, but they weren't going to do a different wiring harness. Both of those are reasonable reasons.
I say we do the most reasonable thing about that. Drill into the bumper here, and then duct tape a couple of lights in.
Oh, no. You get with the times, you put an LED bar across. Right here where you bust it.
Yeah, put the LED bar across right there.
It blocks airflow to the radiator.
Yes. Get a nice neon light underneath. Black light underneath. Yeah, underglow.
Just have three things. Here's the disadvantage. It came apart easily. It doesn't go back together easily. Because you have three little bolts that are on swivel points that you have to line up and push back into holes. I see, says the blind man.
Being in the wind.
That's what, okay, that's problematic still. There's tracks that these go onto, but the problem is, by the time you get to the track, you've got to have the bolt kind of semi-lined up.
I still say sledgehammer and duct tape.
There's tracks to feed them onto, but the tracks don't want to cooperate. You got tracks here and here that go with these. But the problem is these don't come out far enough that you're on the track before the bolt's hitting.
So they halfway thought it out. Would removing this make it any easier?
A little. That would make it a little easier. So that's coming back out. You're on. I'm on the track on that side. I need a light. For the convenience of other people that use the shop, if you use a battery powered shop light, if someone else's, please turn them off when you're done. Otherwise you don't have anything that works when you need it again. And that's not on the track. That's why it's not sitting there. Oh, that's part of the problem. Had to slip down. Put the screwdriver over that so that don't slide back down.
Yep, there it is.
And this one's off again.
I see. So you got the track back here you got to match up with.
Yeah, and when I get that one to match up, these won't match up. When this one matches up, then when those match up, this one doesn't. Actually, I think it jumps off of it.
So why don't we just remove this piece here?
I may end up having to. I'd rather not if I don't have to. Because then I've got to remove the shrouding too to get to the points underneath it. There, that time, I think I got it. Because I'm sitting back flush there. Ha! Just took a little finagling. You've got lock tabs you push in. Alright.
And there we go.
Now he's got the other side to do.
Sledgehammer and duct tape.
Don't hit me. I'm already trying to remind myself, why am I changing these?
Because they look pretty. Because if you stand here and look one versus the other, it looks like your truck has a cataract in its that
You
eye.
can see why I'm changing the turn signals with the headlights, because you can definitely tell once you replace the headlight.
Not to mention, it's safer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to be able to see at night. The lock tabs, and they may have been spring tabs once upon a time. They're not anymore.
After about 20 years, metal starts to stiffen up and no longer springy.
I always gotta do something more difficult for this side. The other side went too smoothly. This time those holding clips keep sliding back down.
That's who easy ass camera guy here to just hold it. This reminds me of something my father once told me about automotive work.
Need a three-handed midget that's left-handed?
No, son, he said, just let me do it. I decided to help.
Thank you. Hold that and that. Now you gotta hold that pushed back, like where my thumb is. Because that was catching, the threads were catching what was going on. And I couldn't get it pulled out because the threads were binding.
It's a good thing you're throwing this away, right?
Well, this one's actually not too horrible. Mainly just saving them because it's a good way to house the bulbs that are still good. What the heck is that for? One-way valve, I guess?
What are we talking about?
That, I think it's a one-way valve.
More than likely.
Oh, wow. Which means that one's gonna come out again.
Guess this is why it's a good idea to watch all these videos to the end, so you see all the secrets and things we figure out.
I think the fabric is just their substitute for that, because that's a piece of fabric glued on there.
Hmm?
And that's some sort of valve, and it's got a stopgap, so it's not coming out. It's just a vent for any moisture that gets in there to be able to come out. I think that stays just like it is. I ain't gonna fool with it, because that's not coming out. It backed out that far, then it's just spinning.
Yeah, and there ain't no extra bulb or anything in there.
Nope.
So.
And that the gasket is, so that was a vent valve. And I guess these, instead of doing the vent valve, that's a piece of fabric. So I guess they just did a piece of fabric.
Yeah, pretty much. Here's to hoping that it'll work better. Yes, he's wearing gloves and he's wiping his gloves off.
I don't want to get dust on the bulbs.
I'll say this though, at least you don't put hand sanitizer on the gloves. Like I've seen some people do before.
Yeah. Working in health industry, it's amazing how many people you have to tell you can't just wash your gloves and reuse them. You have to change your gloves, and you wash your hands after you take your gloves off.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with something highly contaminated, you wash your gloves and you take them off and throw them away, then you wash your hands. So, which really confuses people. And I get talking and I put the old bulb back in. Let's play musical bulbs. The bulbs will fit in both light fixtures. They're not left and right. I've discovered that. Now, I say that, but I'm sure there are probably fixtures somewhere that have a right light bulb and a left light bulb, because they'll have some weird thing to the fixture. I don't put that past a car manufacturer to have done that at some point.
Especially the more expensive ones. Little dielectric grease never hurt anybody.
Yeah. I was looking to see if there's maybe an easier way to do it. I didn't see anything to make it an easier way to do it. So, other than I already know to have that out of there, which I think I'm going to take that all the way off. And that'll make it a little easier. Not having that hanging there in the way.
So for the record, if that falls down, it's your fault.
Okay. That also makes it harder. That's a piece of the track. That was probably why it was jammed in there, because the track's broken right there. That was probably holding it on. I'm sure with being 20 years old, probably when someone changed the light bulb. And this would probably be easier with the grill off. Well, first things first. I'm going to plug it in because that's easier this way. I have big hands. It won't fit down there.
His cameraman's not going to do that. Camera guy will not do that.
Before I get in there, I got to compare them.
Yeah, didn't I tell you that?
I don't know, maybe. Looks close. Closer than I can get it this way.
Close enough for government work?
Yeah, and I'll try to adjust it, though these are not going to be the most pleasant ones to adjust. hold this right there. Thank you. Down. No, up, up, up. There we go.
Sledgehammer?
No, they're in. Push those tabs back. This one went on easier, I'll give it that. It came off harder. Some knowledge, this one, that broken bit of track actually made that easier because the bottom one I could line up on that side, then the top one would get hung up on the track.
Yeah.
Well, that piece was gone. So when I got the bottom one lined up, it lined up on the front before it got to it. So Ford, remove that piece. After a turn signal, go on and do this. I'm thinking of it. Which these gaskets seem good. If you have gaskets that aren't sealing anymore, you can put this around the gasket too, and it'll help seal out the moisture.
Yeah. So would it be better if I did that or just got a new gasket?
If you can get a new gasket, you can just do a new gasket. That would be better. No. But if for some reason you can't get gaskets, you can't always find a gasket to replace it with. And if that's the case, then you can just use some of that, and that'll help seal it off. It makes it a little slimy to work with after the fact. Got to mark that box that it's headlight assembly and headlight bolts, because I'm putting those together. Okay. Yes, this is worth doing to keep stuff out of it.
Moisture inside a headlight assembly is not a good thing. I learned that on my own.
Dirt isn't either. And always remember to plug it in.
Plug it in, plug it in. Yeah, it's kind of hard to do after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah, and it drives you, and when you don't know, when that's the reason why it's not working, you feel like an idiot afterwards. Even if you did feel like an idiot before, you feel like a bigger idiot afterwards. And fetch. There we go. It's in, snapped in place, now put the bolt in. And this was a T20 Torque Screw. That's good to know, because there's a good chance this will be pretty standardized. There'll probably be a bunch of T20s on this, anywhere they use a torque screw.
Okay, T20 Torque Screw, gotcha.
Unless they're really sadistic, normally they limit it to about 3 torque screw sizes if they're using torques. And they're really sadistic, they just grabbed whatever was on the shelf.
Not to mention this is a 20-year-old vehicle and you're not the first owner, so yeah. Who knows who did what with what screws?
Well, I'm used to working on Jeeps, old Jeeps, AMC Jeep, Kaiser Jeep, the in-between Jeeps, and that's literally the best way to describe it. They're in-between Jeeps, which means they have some Chrysler parts, they have some Ford parts, they have some Kaiser parts, they have some AMC parts, they have parts for things that don't even make sense. Like, why did a 1991 Grand Wagoneer use an ignition system off of a 79 Ford 4500 or 7500, the 1.25 ton truck? That Ford only used that ignition system 1 year, but apparently Jeep used about all they had left and used them in 91. And my other 91 Grand Wagoneer didn't use that system. It used a Chrysler system.
So they learned.
No, they just grabbed different parts. Apparently they hadn't run out of Chrysler systems when the first one was built. By the time the second one was built, they said, oh, we're out. What do we have? There's a Ford one back there.
I was going to give them the benefit of the doubt until you said that.
No, I found out the final edition placard on the last of the Grand Wagoneers don't just mean that's the last 500. That was a warning to the dealerships that it was the last of the builds. So the parts are not going to match the manuals. And good luck guessing. Okay. Well, now I got to do battery. Get the new battery in there. Clean this out some. The rest of the battery components.
What more is there? You got battery and battery cables.
I wonder if the bolt's still in there, because I've got the lock block that puts the battery in place, and that's just a protective cover. But just realized there's no bolt. There's no bolt in here either. Should be a bolt right there for that. And once upon a time there was a battery that clamped there. Alright, let's see how this goes. Nice thing about the other battery is it weighs less. Now I get to find a bolt. Now's when I probably end up going to the hardware store.
I'm not filming that.
I'm blaming you though, you jinxed me. Saying this would be the one build I don't go to the hardware store on.
Yeah, I can accept that.
This may end up going to the hardware store because that goes there. There's a bolt that's supposed to go there. I'm going to look in the car again, but I can't find the bolt. And all the bolts I have that might be the right threading are either too long or too short by a lot. So, how does this thing clip on
Duct tape?
anyways? I'm still wondering, does that just set on there? I think this just sets on there and the cable holds it down. That's very secure. I think it just sits on there over the top. Nothing holds it down. And that's another project.
What's another project?
The cables are disconnected in these back doors and you can't open them.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way to open them inside, outside, anything. This one's not even closed all the way. So I gotta take these panels off and change those cable ends.
It rattles a bit.
Hey, someone had an otter case. But I recognize that. That's for an iPhone.
I think that was half their problem.
And a spoon. And empty Mentos tube.
If you find a needle, I'm out of here.
Mostly it's carpenter stuff. Screws and nails.
How's a spoon carpenter stuff?
Lunch.
That looks like a spoon a meth head would use, man. Look, somebody's heating up their freaking heroin in that thing.
No, this is how they dug themselves out of the hole they dug with the one-wheel fire. I found a fork too. I threw it away already. So, well, I found a full cutlery set because there was a bent butter knife, a bent fork, and now there's this old spoon. So I found a full set of cutlery in there.
All bent.
All right, since I can't find the bolt and it's starting to rain, I'm going back to zip tying this in for now until I can have time, because it's going to start pouring rain on me here in a little bit. So I'm just going to zip tie this block in for now and get the bolt later.
Remember, zip ties and duct tape can fix anything.
In a pinch. It's not a permanent fix, but it gets you there. And what am I saying? Sometimes it is a permanent fix.
Yeah.
It's not ideally the permanent fix.
Well, that'll keep your battery from flopping around, I guess.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. It'll hold the battery in place. Here comes the rain. I think my wire cutters are worn out.
A little bit.
Alright, terminal spray.
Porch.
On the porch.
Porch next to the door.
Well, then I'm doing what I always do. I'm using dielectric grease.
That'll work too.
Just to help prevent corrosion, so.
Also, it prevents all that nice white caking powder from building up between the terminal and your battery cable. And I only mention this because, again, this is one of those things I didn't learn when I was 18 and didn't understand why my car kept cutting out.
The spray is a little nicer because it's less gunky, so it's not going to make your hands slimy. But then I get kind of aggravated with it if you're using it on and off because it pretty well glues the terminals to it. So if you're going back and forth from having batteries, and there's light, let there be light. Now I get to reset all my presets.
Yep. Do they have German bagpipe metal channel on here? Out here?
No, I hadn't found that one yet anyways. Okay, how do they want to do these?
I would assume they wanted you to put that cover on first and then the post terminals on.
That's what I'm working on. Don't know, never seen one of these with a... I've never seen one of these on a truck. So, I think they're all missing them by now.
I've never seen a truck come with that, but...
Well, it does when it's brand new. They're on there till the first time someone has to work on the battery.
I suppose.
Because it makes it harder to get these things on, that's why. Let's try this one this way. There we go. Once you get them on there, they're fine. Get them on there a little bit. And then we can come back with terminal spray over the top of them.
Yeah.
I see why they didn't put this back on. It makes it very hard to tighten these down. Hopefully this will fix the little electric gremlins too. Like the odometer going in and out. There we go, they're getting tight. And I'll get some spray. Clean that up a little bit with some brush and get some spray on that.
Alrighty. Well,
And
you want to turn it on, turn the lights on?
yep, that's the next, well, all I have to do is turn the lights on. Nothing about it, you don't have to turn it on for that.
Yeah, but we need to make sure the truck runs. You just change the battery.
Yeah, but might as well change the lights first. Lights are good and bright.
Yeah, looks a lot better. What?
176,208.5 miles.
Your odometer thing's fixed?
It went out and lit back up here for right after it went out. Normally when it comes on, goes out, it stays out until I've driven a few miles. Basically till I've gotten a high enough RPMs, I think that the alternator's putting out enough juice. So it's got a strong enough battery now, maybe it'll be good.
Yeah. Weak battery, you know, is pretty bad for electronics.
Well, that's interesting. I had the radio turned off, disconnecting the battery and putting it back in. Turn the radio back on. Which has got the old-fashioned way of connecting your device to your tape deck in it.
Alrighty. Well, it's another one done.
Yep, now I got to put everything away and get out of the way for the roommate to come back and park.
Good luck with that. As always, please like, share this video with your friends if you've enjoyed this content. If you didn't enjoy this content, share it with the enemies. After all, why should you suffer alone? And thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you. Have a good one. So long.